Hello, my name is Jonathan Greene. I'm a partner at the law firm of Greene and Maruzak, and today I'm here with Jon Kent and Vittoria Marini, both accredited VA agents. And today we're going to be talking about total disability based on individual unemployability, otherwise known as TDIU. So, Jon, tell us what TDIU is.
Certainly. So TDIU, as John explained, is a total disability evaluation based on individual unemployability. Essentially the idea that the frequency and the severity of a veteran's service-connected disabilities prevent the veteran from being able to secure and maintain a substantially gainful occupation. Secure and maintain essentially means that the veteran is able to find and hold a job for at least a 1-year period that pays in excess of the federal poverty threshold.
So basically, if your service-connected disabilities prevent you from working, you're probably a good candidate for TDIU. And Vittoria, why go for TDIU? Why not just add up your disability ratings?
Well, I think a lot of veterans' primary goal is always to get the highest amount of compensation possible. But oftentimes, if we try to do that with individual disabilities and add them up through VA's way of combining all those service-connected disabilities, it doesn't always add up to 100% the way that we might think it would. So a 50% plus a 50% does not equal 100%. It's actually 75%. So if a veteran is unable to work due to their service-connected disabilities and they get this benefit, then they would be compensated at the 100% rate without actually having that combined disability itself of 100%.
We refer to that as VA math. It's not simple arithmetic where your disability ratings are just added together. As Vittoria said, a 50 and a 50 isn't 100, it's a 75, which rounds to 80. The higher you go, the more difficult it is to get to that next rung, making TDIU very important for our disabled veterans who aren't able to work. Let's talk about qualifications. How does one sort of qualify for TDIU?
Yeah, certainly. So the standard qualifications are if you have one service-connected disability rated at 60% or more, or if you have a combined disability evaluation of at least 70% with one condition rated 40% or more. There are additional steps that you can take to get under that qualification for TDIU. If your conditions combine to get you that 40%, if they affect both the upper or lower extremities, if they're the result of multiple injuries incurred in action, if they affect the same body system, if they're as a result of being a prisoner of war. Those conditions have been incurred together, can combine for one disability evaluation to get you to that 40% rating, to combine to 70, to still put you under the qualification for TDIU. Importantly, even if you don't meet the qualification for TDIU, you are still eligible and able to file that claim for TDIU. There is a couple extra steps involved, but don't be discouraged. You're still able to file for TDIU, even if you don't meet the qualification.
And I think that second point is very important because as complicated as the scheduler criteria can be, the recipe really comes down to if your service-connected disabilities prevent you from working, you can be an eligible candidate for TDIU regardless of your rating. So how do you raise TDIU, Vittoria?
Well, there are a couple of ways. The most cut and dry or the most straightforward one that one might think of is what's called just filing an out-of-the-box claim for TDIU, which just means filing for TDIU outright. So if you don't already have an increased rating claim that's pending or that you've been working on with the VA, you can file an 8940 form, which we'll talk about. And we can also file a supplemental claim for that disability and get that benefit. The other way is if the increased evaluation is already pending and you can raise it basically as part of that increased rating as what we call part and parcel of that increased rating claim.
And I think that the concept is veterans are presumed to be seeking the highest rating possible. Yes. And so they're filing for disability rating increases. They may not have formally filed the right form for TDIU, but if the issue of unemployability is raised as part of the record, VA should still be looking into it. So you want to note when the issue has been raised because, again, when you're filing for increased rating claims, VA should be under the assumption that you're trying to get the highest possible rating, which is oftentimes that 100% rating.
Definitely. And the 8940 form would be involved in whichever way that you did decide to file it. It's a form that is required, and if you haven't submitted it on your own, VA will ask for it. It asks for your work history, your earnings history, when you stopped working, which disabilities impact your ability to work, and will be a key part of that initial process.
VA loves its forms, and you're not going to get TDIU without at least getting an 8940 into the record. And please don't be intimidated by the size of it. It's a pretty long form, but most of the information is just going to be stuff that you're going to know off the top of your head, a little bit about your employment history and earnings, but firms like ours are always there to help with the completion of these forms. So let's talk about some of the conditions that we often see when filing for TDIU. A lot of times we're dealing with mental health conditions or orthopedic conditions. John, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. So when you're evaluating the functional impairment, whether it's an orthopedic or a mental health disability, it all comes down to, for TDIU, what is the functional impairment of the disability? If it is orthopedic in nature, you're going to want to talk about sitting, standing, carrying, lifting. If you have an office job, or what we call sedentary, how long can you sit before a back or a knee locks up and you need to stretch? How long can you stand? Does the pain affect your concentration? If it is a sedentary job and you have a mental health disability, affecting your ability to interact with your coworkers, your bosses, any customers. Do you ever get in shouting matches? Do you ever get in scenarios where, because of your service-connected disability, it impacts your ability to do the job that's required? There are some scenarios where you can work while still receiving TDIU that we'll get into, but generally, if your service-connected disabilities, whether orthopedic or mentally, do affect your ability to work, you are eligible for TDIU.
And I think that, again, make sure it's the limitations caused by your service-connected disability. So you probably, oftentimes is the case that you're going to have a mix of conditions, some service-connected, some that are not service-connected. The focus needs to be on the limitations caused only by the service-connected conditions. So you would think that, this is a benefit that is only available for disabled veterans who are not working. But are there exceptions to that, Vittoria?
There are a few exceptions. One of the ones that we see are protected work environments, which would mean that a veteran might still be working, but they might be under conditions where they're receiving certain accommodations that would be considered unreasonable from a typical employer. One situation that we see often is maybe a veteran is working for a family member. They might have the same exact position as another non-family member person. They're being paid the exact same amount, but their responsibilities in that position are different. And regardless of what they're actually making per year salary-wise, it's still considered something that they would qualify for because of that nature of that work.
And then another thing is to look at the actual earnings themselves. Yes. So if you are earning below the poverty threshold, VA should not consider that to be substantially gainful employment. And again, if your service-connected conditions prevent you from substantially gainful employment, not all kinds of employment, substantially gainful employment, then you would be eligible for TDIU. So I'd like to thank you both for providing this very enlightening conversation on a very important benefit for our disabled veterans. If you do need assistance with any of your claims for TDIU, you can find us. The link is in the bio. Thank you very much and have a great day.